My name is Christian Rodriguez, and this is the Political Compass, where we will recap important headlines coming out of Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and the global stage in order to spread civic literacy amongst Belen students. Let's begin the news with the continuing problem over the federal government's budget. Last Saturday, the day which the federal government funding was set to expire, both the Senate and the House agreed on a bipartisan continuing resolution, or CR. This CR would extend government funding for another 45 days, up until the 17th of November. It is known as a clean CR because it kept government funding levels the same and did not include funding for other projects, except for funding for disaster relief. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy urged the members of his party to support the measure, and it passed overwhelmingly, with 335 members in favor and 91 against. But 90 of those opponents were Republicans, who became furious with the Speaker for allowing a spending bill like this to pass. It then moved on to the Senate, where it passed with 88 votes in favor and 9 votes against, all of these votes being Republicans. The continuing resolution was signed into law by President Biden, avoiding a government shutdown just hours before the deadline. As mentioned, many Republican House members were outraged by Speaker McCarthy's decision to allow this CR on the floor, and many, most notably Matt Gaetz, said he had betrayed the House Republican Conference. These criticisms culminated on Monday, when Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida announced he was invoking a resolution to vacate the chair, also known as a motion to vacate. This measure would force a vote on whether the Speaker should be removed, and needed only a simple majority to pass. The House then voted on this resolution on Tuesday, and crucially, Speaker McCarthy lost 8 members of his party on this vote, who voted with all Democrats to boot him out of his job. The vote passed with a vote of 216 in favor and 210 against. McCarthy became the first Speaker to ever be removed from his role during a legislative session and the third shortest Speaker in American history, serving for only 9 months. This is what Representative Gaetz had to say about the vote.
Kevin McCarthy is a feature of the swamp. He has risen to power by collecting special interest money and redistributing that money.
Also, Miami Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, a staunch McCarthy ally, said this.
Well, democracy is messy. I represent the city of Miami, and we are in love with the American political system. It's not a very happy day for that political system. I was a little bit distraught with what happened, but I have to respect what the other members of Congress who decided to vote against Mr. McCarthy have to do, because that is the way democracy works. But now we don't have a speaker, but we still have the same problems that we had yesterday and the day before: spending and the border. And I agree with what you're saying, that we have a few members that are just not in line with what the Republican Party represents. Moderates and conservatives, and that has been debated in conference all throughout this month. But let's look forward, because what happened, it's not what we really wanted to happen, but maybe something good comes out of it. I am an eternally optimist. We have a problem with the border, and we have a problem with spending, as you know, and that was all we heard in that debate. McCarthy has tried to do what he could within 8 months. We have a major fiscal issue, $6 billion a day that we are spending. We need to stop that. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and we have a problem at the border. And I want to just share with you, because this is the first time that we talk, and you're one of the big boys at CNN, is that Salazar has presented something that could definitely help Democrats and Republicans, which is called the Dignity Act, which seals the border and at the same time gives dignity to those people who have lived here in the shadows. So there is something. Yeah.
I didn't even know what the next steps were here, if there was going to be a speaker pro tem appointed, or if they were even going to approve this meeting.
There will be a speaker soon. McCarthy, as I'm sure you know, left a list. Apparently that is the way the rules works, that the speaker, which is Patrick McHenry. And if McCarthy decides not to come back, as they were explaining in the panel a few minutes before, Well, listen, if let's go into conference and let's decide what's going to happen. What we do know is that this bickering cannot continue because we have 8 more appropriation bills that need to be passed in order to fund the rest of the government. So. I would support the Republican that can move the conference forward, that has the votes to continue what I just said, the people's business. The average American that is watching us doesn't quite understand. No one really knows who has the votes. So now we're going to go through that exercise right now and see who has our support and has enough credibility in order to move this cart forward. Of course. Well, we were having conversations. Well, it's not the best optics for Republicans, but at the same time, we don't run our conference the way Nancy Pelosi did, which was a lot more less democratic. That's why I said to you a few minutes ago, democracy is messy. And well, but the thing is that is a longer conversation as to why he was not able to do it. And I'm sure that you know the answer to that. But going back to the regular American guy, and I don't think it's competence. No, I think it's other issues that I don't think we should be discussing right now because this is the moment of reckoning for the Republican Party. But I repeat, the American audience that is watching us has problems. They have to pay rent. The inflation is very high. I don't have to explain to you the state of the economy. So what is it that we need to do? We need to lower the spending. We have to create more jobs, and we have to seal the border, which is number one for everyone, including the Dems. Look what's happening in New York City. So I repeat, there are solutions out there, and I have introduced a legislation bipartisan. I'm one of the most bipartisan members in Congress, and at least the solution is out there. But I know that you want to talk about the speaker. Let's see, no one really knows. Whomever tells you, oh yeah, I know who it is, no one really knows. But I can maybe advance some information later on after we go to conference.
Finally, McCarthy reacted to this vote by saying, quote, "Doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it is necessary. And you all know Matt Gaetz. You know it was personal." This vote kicks off a new race, the race to win the Republican nomination for Speaker of the House. So far, 2 candidates have announced: Congressman Steve Scalise, a representative from Louisiana and the current House Majority Leader, and Congressman Jim Jordan, a representative from Ohio, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee. Representative Jordan is known as a firebrand conservative and is one of the founding members of the House Freedom Caucus. He already announced the endorsement of former President Donald Trump, who said that Jordan, quote, "will be a great Speaker of the House and has my complete and total endorsement." The plan for the election as of now is to have a Republican conference meeting on Tuesday and a vote on the House floor to elect the next Speaker on Wednesday. Also, earlier this week, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced his replacement for the seat of the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. He announced he was appointing Laphonza Butler to the United States Senate. Mrs. Butler made history as only the 3rd black woman to ever be a U.S. Senator. She spent her career as the head of California's largest union group and as the head of the nation's largest political women's group, known as Emily's List. Senator Butler was then sworn in on Tuesday. She has not decided whether she will run for election to the seat next year, a move which would pit her against 3 current members of Congress running for the same seat. And with that, that's it for this week's Political Compass segment. Until next time, when we run down headlines coming out of Washington, D.C., Tallahassee, and the world stage for you.